My M30 wife, F33, lost our baby, we divorced and now I'm moving on. Well, my wife, now ex-wife, was 2 months pregnant. When she found out she was pregnant, she asked me to talk and told me that halfway through our relationship as a couple and half a year before our marriage she cheated on me with her best friend, with whom she currently has no communication. Currently we have been married for 8 years and she told me that she wanted to confess it because a child was going to be a change in our lives and that she wanted to start it off right in order to be good parents. In her words, it's for having a clean beginning. I obviously asked her the most logical question of all. I asked her if that child was really mine, knowing that if she cheated once she could have done it more times, for some reason that made her cry. I was totally angry with her, but I didn't want to hurt her. However, I didn't want to comfort her either, so I left the room and went to another side of the house to think about my action plan. Hours later I was sitting in the sofa. During those hours I did not go to see her at any time. I did not want to see her face. I heard her calling me, almost screaming. I approached her and she was in the bathroom bleeding quite a bit down there. We went to the hospital and apparently she had a miscarriage. According to the doctor, it was not something forced nor product of some medication. Maybe it was an emotional shock, something that already happened to her before. While she was sitting on her stretcher waiting to be discharged, she asked me what I thought about all this. I just said that maybe it was for the best since a child would make more difficult the divorce, words that made her cry again. I'm not going to lie, I love her, but at the same time I don't trust her anymore. If she could hide a slip for almost a decade, I don't know what else she could have hidden. Maybe this is just the tip of the iceberg. The only thing that haunts me now is to know if that son was mine or not. According to her, she has been faithful to me since then and she never spoke or saw any man other than me, which I did not ask her to do. But obviously I also have to question that. Our relationship was quite good, but now I also have to doubt if every good deed she did for me was out of true love or it was just guilt for cheating on me. Anyway, I'm already planning a divorce. Thank God that son wasn't born because otherwise everything would have been more complicated. As I said, I love her, but I can't live knowing every action she made for me could be a lie, and also I'm not forgiving a cheating. Now, I want to clarify one thing. In my country there is something called divorce by mutual agreement, which is a process that lasts less than a month, which you will not go to any trial, just a signing of papers by both parties. It is made clear that we both want to divorce. The following conditions exist to be able to carry out this type of procedure. 1. Both must agree. 2. That 2 years or more have passed since their marriage. We have been married for 8 years. 3. If there are minor or older children with disabilities, everything related to parental authority, food, tenure, visits, guardianship must be resolved. We do not have children. 4. Not having property in common. We have separate finances. Well, 2 days later she called me and told me to go to my father-in-law's house, where she is since her father picked her up from the hospital that night, to talk. I went with the papers that my lawyer had given me and that she had to sign in case I could convince her. I arrived. She was with her father, a 70-year-old man. She has not been related to her mother or siblings since she started university because her parents are separated and she was the only one who wanted to stay with her father, so he is the only one with her. We talked about everything that happened and after a few hours she ended up signing all the papers. She asked me if I hated her. I told her that I don't feel the same love for her, but that I felt respect for her courage to confess something that she could have kept for her. I wished her good luck and told her to recover, that I love her but that I can't trust her anymore and that the healthiest thing is for each one to get ahead on their own. We gave each other one last hug and kiss and I told her I would take care of everything and that if I needed anything I would let her know. Now I just have to take the papers to be legalized by a notary and then take it to the civil registries for the registration of the divorce in the civil registry. Although I'm happy that this was solved the easy way, I still have a pain in my chest from everything that happened. I'll start therapy next week and I'll get through it, I guess. For those who wonder why I didn't consent to this infidelity even though it was almost a decade ago, I grew up in a family where both parents were unfaithful to each other and forgave each other. I ended up leaving that house as soon as I could because the discussions taking everything past in face were an everyday thing. I don't want to go through the same thing or make my future children have to hear the same thing that I heard. Now a week has passed, I have gone to the psychologist and I feel that I am improving. The truth is that I am very hopeful about the future, but I feel that I will have to be more careful in my next relationship. But at the same time I do not want to mistrust my new partner. The truth is that this is very difficult, but I just have to move on. Ah, yes, I already presented the notarized and signed divorce papers to public records. My status should change to divorced in less than 2 weeks. I don't know how my ex-wife is doing, I haven't called her, but at least she has her dad to support her. It's been more than a month of all this and many things happened. First of all, I am officially divorced. I have no interest in how my ex-wife is taking it, but I trust that she will be doing well. I mean, she has her father to support her. On the other hand, I still go to my appointments with my therapist, who a few weeks ago gave me the green light to start a new relationship if I think I'm ready. A couple of weeks ago I started dating who was a classmate classes in my master's degree, and currently we are already exclusive. I have hopes in this relationship, but I will take things easy anyway. We are still young after all. She is 30 years old just like me. There is really no time limit. Some people seem to think there is some statute of limitations on betrayal, and there isn't. Her infidelity was old news to her, but not to you. Honestly, I don't think I could forgive them myself. The amount of the time that passed wouldn't matter to me. I would always wonder what else they did that I didn't find out about. Story 2. Girlfriend cheated after engagement ring shopping. My girlfriend at the time, 24F, and myself, 26M, had been together for about 3 years. The question of marriage began popping up, especially with other friends of ours getting engaged/married and having children. It was just that point in our lives. She was the love of my life. My first love. I would have done anything for her. So when she started dropping hints, I decided to move forward and figure out what type of an engagement ring she would want. After work one day, we headed to the jewelry store and found the perfect ring. I was planning on coming back in a month or 2 to purchase it once I had saved up some money. It wasn't overly expensive, but would have nearly wiped out my savings. A few days later was the weekend. One of my friends, Dex, invited both of us over to watch a UFC fight on Saturday. For context, Dex is about 18 years older than me but has been a family friend for a long time. I thought he was the coolest guy in the world when I was a kid, definitely someone I looked up to. So now being an adult and being friends with him is a childhood dream. Anyway, normally I would have the weekend available to do whatever, but I had a side job and my client needed me to film some property in a different city early in the morning on Sunday. I decided to head up Saturday night so that I didn't have to be on the road at 5 a.m. on Sunday. I told Dex I couldn't make it, but my girlfriend could go. They were friends too. I trusted her and I trusted him. Couldn't imagine either of them ever doing something to hurt me. So she goes to his house to watch the fight. Around 11 I went to bed and texted her that I love her and I'll see her tomorrow. She replies in her usual bubbly manner and tells me she loves me too. Sunday morning rolls around and I text her good morning. She responds, but not in her usual bubbly way. I thought it was odd but figured she was just hungover or something. I went to work and then called her to let her know I was done and that I'd be home in a couple hours. She didn't answer. I thought it was odd, but maybe she didn't hear her phone or she was in the bath or something. I stopped a few miles down the road to get gas and tried calling again. Still no answer. This wasn't usual behavior from her as we talked all day every day. We were best friends. I started getting a bad feeling in my gut. I knew something had happened and just hoped for the best. I finally made it home after the longest drive of my life. She wasn't home. I called her again and once again, no answer. I called Dex, assuming she was still at his house. He told me she left after the fight last night and hasn't seen her since. About an hour later she shows up at home with some groceries. She walks right past me and doesn't say a word. I try saying hi and asking her about why she hasn't responded to me all day. She continues putting groceries away. A few minutes go by and I am fuming. Then all I hear from the laundry room is, "I cheated you," I asked, with who already knowing the answer. She confirmed my suspicion and came out to the living room where I was. She got on her knees and started bawling her eyes out in my lap. This went on for a while and I had no words. Eventually, I told her I needed to think and asked her to leave. Fast forward 6 months, we broke up. I thought I could move past it. She really seemed genuinely sorry, but I just couldn't trust her anymore. Lesson learned. Don't try to make it work with someone you don't trust. I would definitely drop Dex as a friend. You cannot trust him either. He knew that she was in a relationship with you. I would warn your friends as well that they can't trust Dex around their wives, girlfriends, mothers, or sisters. Story 3. My 27M girlfriend, 26F, lied to me to go see her ex, and I caught her in the lie. I was with my 27M girlfriend, 26F, for 5 months before I caught her in a lie just this week. She had an ex that had recently moved into town from out of state. Knowing everything I know now, there's no way he didn't move here for them to be together. Anyway, we initially talked about the ex being in town, and at first she seemed transparent about the whole thing. I mentioned that it was a little odd to me that he was so insistent on seeing her right after getting into town about 2 weeks ago. I would have had no problem with her letting me know they were gonna catch up at a restaurant/bar, etc., as I would extend the same courtesy to any of my exes if they came to my city. A few days pass and she calls me at about 4:30 after I'm off work. Says she's gonna hit the gym and go home after. Okay, cool, have fun. It gets to then be around 9 p.m. that night. She almost always calls me before bed, but this time texts me, and not in the usual way she texts. She was so tired from the gym and was going to go to bed. I called her because I wanted to talk to her before bed. But when she answers and we speak, I can notice that it doesn't sound like she's at home. There's a TV on, she hardly ever watches TV, and it sounds so much more echoey, like a big open room. I being to get dubious. We say goodnight and hang up, but I'm not quite done yet. I had some contact fluid sitting in a very particular place at her apartment, and you'd be able to see it very easily. So I call back and ask if she's seen it anywhere, and she says she is looking but can't find it in the place where I think I may have left it. So now my heart starts to race. In a moment of instinct, I drive to her house to see if her car is there. As I pull up, the only spot in the complex that she has to park in does not have her car. I walk up to her apartment, and since we both had keys to each other's places, I enter and she's nowhere to be found. I then begin to call her, multiple times, no answer. Almost an hour passes before she calls me again. I was actually on my way back to her place from my house since I had to first call out of work and get some things. She asks me where I'm at and says she's now at my house. I ask her where she's been and she says she was at her ex's house. My world flipped upside down. I don't really need to cover the details of our conversation, but ultimately, she was with her ex from 6 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. at his house the entire time. They talked, made dinner together, and listened to music they liked together for multiple hours. This was all what she had outlined. Whether or not things were physical, I'll never truly know. At the very least, she admitted to lying to me because she knew I'd be upset either way and admitted to having an emotional affair behind my back. She had decided that she was going to see him at about 2 p.m. I told her that I could not go on with her lying to me, and ultimately dumped her cheatin' ass. I don't believe that she has that much remorse, as she was so indignant and defensive when I confronted her. She cried and cried, almost to the point of it being a little pathetic, and who knows how much of it all was a facade. I know I deserve better. Every second from the moment she decided to go see him was a chance to come clean and stop herself. There's a reason she lied. Even if they didn't have sex, they did. They had a romantic 4.5-hour date. Move on and don't even look back. Story 4. Girlfriend of 4 years cheated with my friend. This happened a few months ago. My 21M girlfriend, 21F, cheated in our apartment while I was asleep in our bedroom. It started when summer was just beginning and we wanted friends over to our apartment to hang out and have some drinks and bonfires and just have fun. By chance, I was picking up food for the both of us when all of my childhood best friends, about 6 guys, showed up together to where I was picking up the food. I was excited to see them all, and it was a Friday night, and I invited all of them back to our apartment to have a bonfire and hang out. They all accepted, and that night was one of the best nights I had had in a long while. This began to be an event we had every weekend, and we were all loving it. My girlfriend has always been too touchy when she has been drinking, but she had always assured me she would never ever cheat and that she despised cheaters, so I wasn't too concerned when she was talking to my friends and getting a little close, because I had absolute trust in her. One of my friends had recently gotten out of a long relationship and he was a lonely person. They had some things in common and that would keep them talking through most of the night. One thing they bonded over was they had both lost an uncle that they had cared about. She called it trauma bonding. Fast forward a few weeks and we're still having the get-togethers. We partied until about 6 a.m. and I decided to smoke some weed with a few friends, and that ended up putting me right to bed. I passed out on our couch and I woke up in our bedroom around noon pretty hungover. I got up because my girlfriend wasn't with me in bed and I walked out to the living room and it was just the two of them. They were both fully clothed and listening to music. I sat down next to her for a minute before I suggest that we get to bed. As soon as we laid down she started crying softly, and she said "I love you." Instantly I knew something had happened. She told me they got really drunk and he kissed her, but it was nothing more than that. I was angry and I wanted so badly to do something, but she begged me to not be mad at him or to hurt him, so I obliged. I bottled my anger and I drove him home. I felt off all day, and I had asked her multiple times if anything else had happened, and she assured me every time that nothing else did. The next night I was working a graveyard shift and my girlfriend went out to the bar with the same people. I felt insecure leaving her around him, so I left work to go to that bar. She flipped on me, calling me a bitch and telling me that I didn't trust her and that I only left work to babysit her. One of my friends told me that he saw her phone, that she messaged her sister admitting that she actually did cheat. I left the bar in anger, but eventually I got her to go back to our apartment where I gave her an ultimatum: either you tell me the truth right now or I leave. I never thought for a second that she had actually had sex with him because I had absolute trust in her. When presented with the ultimatum she said, "If I tell you then you'll leave me," and right at that second I knew. I packed some suitcases and drove to my mom's where I broke down. I tried to message the friend that did this and all I asked him was why. He then blocked me on everything. Still currently staying at my mom's, but I'm not quite sure where to go from here. First of all, trauma bonding is when a person falls for someone who is abusing them. What she had going was called an emotional, which led to sexual affair. Absolutely 100% cut him off. No text or words, it's beneath you. The same goes for her. Cut your losses and move on. Don't involve friends they know. Text them, hang with them, and act like you are living your best life. Nothing pisses people off more than when you're happy and okay. Hit up one of your old girlfriends. Even if just for a beer, you will feel better. Glad you found out now than after you married or worse had a child.